Welcome, welcome. Hi, friends. Thanks for being here.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, 2 weeks late.
Has it really been only 2 weeks? It felt like 3 years already.
Happy New Year 3 years ago. Tanya specifically.
It's a me problem. Sorry, y'all.
All good. How about while we're just letting everybody in, you want to type everybody say a little hello and let us know what you were doing on New Year's. See, we can compare notes. What were you doing on New Year's? No worries, Vicky. Oh, it looks like Janet is joining us early. That's okay. Again, if you're just joining us, we are throwing into the chat, what were we doing on New Year's? Tanya, do you want to tell us like verbally so that we don't have a silent room? What were you doing on New Year's?
Ooh, New Year's. I was in Alabama for a wedding,
Oh, was
which was
the wedding on New Year's Day?
it was on the 31st.
Oh, okay.
It was really cute. And then I went to eat a steakhouse. I had this pork chop that like melted in my mouth, and I was like, "Wow, this is the life."
We love a play.
Yeah, Happy New Year to me, baby. Yeah, so that's what was going on. What about you, Caitlin? What'd you do?
I was visiting Japan over New Year's
Ooh.
and we were in Shinjuku, which is like the like Las Vegas-y style glitzy neon lights kind of neighborhood of Tokyo. But my partner Eric was sick. He kind of had a cold. So we got food. We like had dinner and then we were back at the hotel by like 10 p.m. And I thought we were gonna go back out for midnight, but he's like, can I just go to sleep, please? So we were just hanging out and I was like watching TV. But they have some pretty good TV shows in Japan. So all right, let's check on the chat here. Ooh, line dancing, Zoe. That sounds awesome.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, did you see Wicked, everybody? Oh my gosh, I bought it. I now own this movie.
Oh, Alexandra, your bullet journal. I love that idea.
Mhm.
How many years have you been keeping your bullet journal?
Whoa.
Ooh, sushi. I love that. Monopoly. Awesome. All right. Well, oh, grapes. That's a thing, right? You're supposed to stuff like 12 grapes in your mouth. Isn't that a Spanish thing? Have you guys heard about that? Okay, cool. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tanya?
No,
So
somebody educate me.
I think it's Claire, you were saying it. I think you're talking about this, but yeah, in Spain, you're supposed to put a grape in your mouth for every chime of the clock on midnight. So at the end, I don't know if you're supposed to have 12 grapes in your mouth or you're supposed to have eaten and swallowed all 12 grapes, but it's like a good luck thing slash
Oh,
bad luck if you don't finish. All right. Well, welcome everybody. So we have arrived to our little opening session here for January 2025. We're halfway through our program, and we're so glad to see you again after December off. And we wanted to take this opening session to talk a little bit about goals, goal setting, and setting ourselves up for achievement to make those goals happen. So, if just real quick by like show of hands, who is somebody who makes and attempts to keep New Year's resolutions? Any of us? I know some people are like anti New Year's resolutions, and that's totally okay. But whether you keep New Year's resolutions or not, Setting goals is a really important part, I think, of being a musician in general, and specifically when we're talking about conducting and thinking about a pathway towards potentially becoming a conductor, whether in a professional capacity or otherwise, that we can set ourselves on a path of success. So we wanted to take the first few minutes here before we do our open general Q&A session and before Janet Kim, our guest mentor, starts the ball at the 30 on the hour, is to check in with you about some goals you have for yourself in terms of your musicianship, specifically about music leadership, and also conducting. So I want you to take a minute or two here just to think to yourselves between now and December of 2025, what is a goal that you'd like to set for yourself for conducting, for music leadership, or if you're thinking like that's a little bit too specific, you want to be more broad, then your musical career or your musical education. And let's see if we can get that down in the chat. So I'll type that up for you. If you want to read it, what are your music leadership or conducting goals for 2025?
Caitlin, are you thinking of any goals?
Yes. Did I write them down? I have to write them down. Are you gonna write yours down, Tanya?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got some goals entering the chat. And so what we'll do with these goals once you put them in is if any of you have a question or are seeking some advice about your particular goal, don't necessarily need to hear back from Tanya and myself, right? We have all these other peers in the room with lots of experience, but once we've got these goals down, if any of you want to, do a hand raise, unmute yourself and ask a follow-up question or seek some advice about your goal, we would put it to the room and we can start a little bit of a group discussion in that way. Anyone like to get started sharing your goal and letting us know, looking for some advice? Yeah, Caitlin.
My goal was to finish all of the projects that I have started that are 50% done, all the musical projects. I want to actually complete them and be motivated to do that.
That's awesome. So are you looking for maybe some advice on how we get stuff done like that? Finish your projects?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Who's got advice for Caitlin? Finishing projects.
I have a I have a question. What kind of projects do you have, Caitlin?
Some composition things, like I'll have half a song cycle done and then I'm like, and I just don't touch it for 6 months. Or ideas like I'd love to do a women in jazz album and band leads and stuff, which it's all kind of writing
Mm.
components or like assembling people components.
Anybody have advice for Caitlin?
Maybe we all do this. Oh, Lizanne, why don't you share?
I find that when I've got lots of things that I need to do and projects that are just unfinished and I just can't seem to start, if you just write like a massive list of like every single thing and then maybe categorize them or go through and organize them so you can know like what the genres are, how far through you are, and then that way you can kind of organize it in that way and then just be like, oh, okay, I can just take one step towards completing that list so you don't have it all as one big thing.
I would say if you're really stuck, like set a deadline for yourself, book a venue, and then you have to get the musicians and you have to put it together. Sometimes it takes like that desperate of a measure for me. Like just getting the space, and then you think, yeah, I have to pull through.
I love that. I have a notepad here that says great things are done by a series of small things brought together. It's a quote by Van Gogh, and that's just what it reminded me of. And I'm trying to finish my dissertation, so I totally like Caitlin. I totally feel like it's that vibe of like it's nebulous, but you kind of have to like kind of break it down to like really motivate yourself. Otherwise, it's just overwhelming, and you don't want to touch it for 6 months because it's overwhelming. You know. Maddie, did you have your hand raised?
When I get overwhelmed in projects, I go back to what really inspired me to do them in the first place. So, like you're talking about a women in jazz thing, which sounds really cool. Um, I like make a playlist of all your favorite jazz musicians, or find like a documentary on a jazz musician that you're really inspired by to really like get your brain going and like feel that passion for it.
Amazing advice. Let's move on. Anybody else have one of your goals you want to share and looking for advice or a question to ask? Claire.
Um, I would say I'm an instrumentalist. Mainly I play violin, so a lot of like the preparation I do for conducting, of course, there's score study, but it's a bad habit of mine to sort of choreograph or over practice what I'm going to do because like this is tied into the component of gaining confidence, which I'm sure a lot of people want to do when they're on the podium. So if anyone has advice on how to break free from that sort of instrumentalist mindset of approaching connecting and trying to be more spontaneous but also confident, and because I guess it's just the fear of looking weird that is holding me back from being able to do those spontaneous things.
Awesome
Adeline
question.
has something to say. Yeah. Adeline, go ahead.
So I'm in a similar place where I just had my first like professional conducting experience, like rehearsing a group. And I definitely had like a lot of confidence issues. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if it just doesn't look good? But for me, like it really helped just knowing that like you have to try stuff in order to know if it's going to be good or not. And it's just getting really comfortable with your own style. And everybody looks different and moves differently as a conductor. And so everybody has like different things that are going to look good on them. Like my director, he was like, okay, you're using your fist there. I think an open hand would look better on you. And it did. So it's just being like really open to that. Um, I've also yeah. What were you saying about you're talking about the confidence, but then also, um, I feel like there was another part you said that now I'm blanking on.
Oh, so my specific goal for this year was to be more spontaneous on the podium, which means not practicing it beforehand.
Okay. Yeah. So something that I was talking to my teacher about too was like how it's okay to have like ideas in your head and be like, I just can't choreograph it at all. Like, don't think that you can't choreograph it at all. Like, it's definitely okay to have those ideas in your head of like specifically like, okay, I want to show it in this way here. But I find it really valuable for myself, like yeah, record yourself is a big thing that helped me a lot. Um, so I can go back and give myself feedback. And that gives me the freedom, like knowing that I'm recording myself to just try whatever I want. And that, like, I know it doesn't have to be overly choreographed and I can just try whatever I want because then I can go back to it later.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts? I'll give you a quick piece of feedback is that, I think a main part of conducting, especially if we can trust our ensemble to be like, they got the notes, they got the rhythms, they can mostly play like in time, is to decide what do they need? Like, what does the ensemble need in this moment? Do they need to be reminded of a style, or we're going to take a little bit of a shape in the tempo, some more rubato? And if the answer to that question is going to be answered spontaneously in the moment, then it must be followed by spontaneous cues, whether that's, you know, a facial expression, a gesture, something you're doing with your body. So if you come at it less from like preparing the score and more thinking about what does my ensemble need in this moment, the response to that should create more organic gesture.
I'm just going to add on a little bit to that, but I want to take a little different, slightly different angle. Is that I think for me, when I do things that are choreographed, it's because I have this idea in my head that what I have done previously is perfection. Like I'm trying to stick to what I know. I'm trying to do this because it's the best that I've come up with. Um, so for me, I kind of have to think about how to let go of the idea that things have to be perfect. Like, what does perfection even mean? So when I think about like freestyling and like being open to different interpretation and different movements on the podium, a lot of the voice in my head that goes off is saying like, hey, like try it, it's going to be okay. And there has been really beautiful moments where when that happens that I let go, that I'm like, wow, what I did is actually way better than what I had choreographed, you know, what I had thought how I should move. And a part of that is like, I think for me, it's understanding how like my brain like flows, you know, like there's a thing called flow state. If you want more reading to that, I can send that to you. But there's a state where like it feels like just right, you know, when it's like you kind of get goosebumps and you're like connected to the music and all these things. You kind of want to live in that space, and part of that is being able to let go and, you know, like of that voice that says this has to be perfect. So I think that's a little bit more of like a in your head type of thing. But I think half the battle of conducting is just me battling myself in my head. So so that's what I'm thinking about. Megan, you had your hand raised.
I was just gonna say I did a conducting symposium this last weekend with Dr. Tanya Spalding. I forget her second name.
Spradlin, Mitchell Spradlin.
Yeah. Um, and she was saying to a lot of the conductors, like, don't be so closed off. Like, try not to be so closed off. Like, just don't think too much about what necessarily you're doing, but just let the music guide you. Um, and like feel how the ensemble's reacting to it, and kind of like one of the conductors was very expressive, like his face was very expressive, his gestures were really expressive, and she told him to just fully lean into that. So that sort of stuff.
Maddie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, my roommate just walked in and I said hi. Um, one thing that my conducting teacher always says is that you're a conduit of energy, and like a conduit is in like you're the thing that's helping transfer energy. So he told me before my last concert, because I'm one of his apprentices, so I went up on stage, and right before I went out, he said, improvise one thing. He's like, I want to see one thing that you haven't ever done before. And so I got on, and I was like, oh no, this, I don't want to mess up. But then I just like, I really felt the music, and I tried to, and I all of a sudden just stopped beating time and then emphasized something else. And it was like, oh yeah, it is just the music that I'm here for. They know what they're doing. I'm just helping, kind of thing.
That's amazing. Congrats on your breakthrough. All right. Well, this was an awesome discussion. I would love to spend the whole time talking about all our goals, and maybe if you want to work yours into one of our Q&A questions, but we're going to take about the next 11 minutes before we start with our main session today on score study to answer any more general questions. So if you want to zoom yourself out, if you've had any question that has come up for you in the past couple months since we've met, or maybe a question you had earlier that we haven't answered yet, you can either unmute yourself and ask, raise a hand and ask, or you can send it as a private message message to Tanya, and she can read it for you if you'd like to remain anonymous. Tanya, do we have any leftover questions from previous sessions?
We don't actually, which is honestly a miracle.
Yeah, no, hey, we're getting them knocked out. That's a great thing. So, who's got questions? You can keep going on your goals, or we can bring it out to something more general. Up to y'all. Alexandra.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year's again. This is for anyone really. Here, does anybody have any good book recommendations that have to do with conducting? I'm just looking for recommendations.
Book recommendations. And it might be a great idea to drop the titles and authors in the chat so we can, and I'll consolidate all of them into our resource page today. But yeah, anything you have, drop in the chat. And if anyone wants to unmute to like share something about a book that you have on your mind, feel free.
Okay, so I have like a book that's not necessarily straight for conducting, but I just got this for one of my classes. It's called Creative Miracles, and it's a practitioner's guide to adaptive music instruction. I feel like I should throw that out there because it goes through like adapting for like all different abilities and disabilities and like you can adapt just music in general to fit all of those. And I just thought that I'd put that out there because it falls under a book category.
Thanks, Chloe. If you could get that title in the chat, that'd be really helpful. Any other shout outs?
I've got this one that I literally keep sitting on my desk. So it's The Conducting Technique by Harold Barberman or something. And it's really cool because what it does is it looks into it moves away from like the two-dimensional conducting and it really stresses on the three-dimensional. And it has they've got like diagrams and suggestions, and then they talk about how it's all like a three-step process of like when a conductor's ready to perform. So there's like learning the score, and then it says devising a technique to convey that knowledge to the orchestra, and then conducting the music in rehearsal. And it has lots of different people have been brought into it, and it has examples of like score study and of how a piece of music then you can convey that into physical movement. And it's really good at giving you alternate perspectives and talking about things that you wouldn't normally expect and throwing a new perspective on the normal.
Awesome. I love those creative ideas. Well, great. It looks like we have a great list going. And like I said, I will take all of these and put them onto our resource page for today's session. Do we have another question?
Caitlin?
Yeah. As a conductor, do you always work for an organization or can you work freelance? How do you balance that and how does that work with finances?
Caitlin, go first. Finances. Oh my
Talking
God.
about this a little bit. Yeah. So it depends on the type of ensemble you're conducting. In the like professional orchestral world, there's a lot more freelance conductors who are kind of piecemealing their career together by taking various engagements, whether that's like a guest conducting spot with one concert with some professional ensemble, or sometimes they'll like take over a whole season with an ensemble, or maybe they'll do like an engagement with like an opera that might be a few months, or a summer festival, or maybe like, oh, I'll teach at this college for 1 year because they just need somebody to do 1 year, and kind of putting that all together. A lot of times those people will actually have agents. So they hire an agent, and the agent like essentially makes commission or has a retainer. I don't have an agent, so I'm not 100% sure how it works, but they will have an agent whose job it is to find them those gigs. And a lot of times people who are freelance like that may be independently wealthy in some way, like their family may be able to like subsidize if they don't have a great year, like they're falling back on, a spouse or partner, or like parents, or like an inheritance or something, where it's like if things are a little tentative, they're going to be okay. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a more full-time job and still take those kind of freelance gigs. So for instance, a lot of folks who are in an educational setting, especially at like a collegiate level, the college conducting path can create a lot of space for you to still take other engagements. So for me personally, I'm a college band director, and my responsibilities really are only Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on campus. So I don't have Friday classes, and Monday I only do a youth wind group that's not associated with my school. That leaves I could essentially take 4-day weekends to go conduct honor bands, to go do festivals. I am the director of like a summer municipal band. So I can take a lot of those things. And if I was interested in teaching or conducting more like classical gigs, I could, if I wanted to like hire an agent to help me go get those gigs as well. So it's kind of just depends on like what you're interested in. I'm not really interested in the instability of those guest gigs, but I really do love taking them. But I also love the option that if I was feeling full and like I'm done, I don't have to take them, and I can rely on my salary, which is nice, and healthcare, which is really nice. Any other question? Tanya, do you want
Healthcare.
to respond?
I think my perspective isn't all that different, and I would really highly suggest that, like for example, when we do get Ingrid, that you actually ask that when there's like a various type of conductors in the room. But like for me, like that my bread and butter is music ed, I really think of conducting, I make my salary, and then conducting is just like the thing that I fly around and do, and I love that aspect of it. You kind of have to kind of figure out what you are comfortable with. I think finances is a very, very fascinating thing to talk about, because it's almost like taboo, like people don't want to talk about it, but I kind of disagree that the more you know what other people have done, the more equipped you will be to make your own decisions. So like for example, like let's take a low hanging fruit of like thinking about conducting workshops. Going to conducting workshops costs a lot. Like it's not only your time that you're not making money in other ways, but you have to pay for it. You have to pay for travel. You have to borrow hotels, things like that. And similarly, when you like um, go to apply for, let's say, like an assistant conductor position, it's a very similar path that you have to take in terms of paying for all of these things. So you just kind of like, like Caitlin say, like being, independently wealthy, is in a way. But now I think like more organizations are trying to break down that barrier by like providing grants, providing kind of financial support. So you have to, figure out what you're comfortable with, and then figure out who can help you and what organization can help you on that. Does that answer your question, Caitlin?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you so much.
awesome. Megan, you have your hand up.
I think kind of on that same vein, my question would be, do you think it is a viable career, or do you know anybody who is just like a traveling clinic musician? Because that's like kind of something I want to do.
Yes, but it is going to take typically the same thing we were just talking about, where like it's inconsistent work. A lot of those people have agents. And when I say agents, it's like they're not like a one-to-one. Like the agent will have like a whole bunch of people they're working for, but the agent's job is to help you find gigs. And a lot of times those people are either like these like rocket ship, hot shot, like like amazing prodigy kids that then like roll that into being an adult, or you're kind of going through a typical track, and then once you get out there you start making a name for yourself with some unique quality or aspect that then people start, oh, let's invite you, and then you might hook up with an agent and start to get more of those kind of guest soloist gigs like when you see people performing. Absolutely. Do we have time for one more quick question?
Does anybody know of any conducting workshops, festivals, things to audit? Has anybody ever audited a festival? Anything in Europe? Ooh, we're going to Europe, y'all. Caitlin, is there like a festival, like a list somewhere? There must be.
Yeah, the thing is typically like auditing usually will be referred to as like an observer, and that still will carry a fee as well.
Mhm.
So we can put together a little bit of a list for you on that, but just know that typically the audit is not just like kind of show up and watch. Like there's a observer track, and it won't be the same as a participant track, but there will be an expectation that comes with like you're participating and you're there's a financial incentive to like be involved there. But yeah, we'll put something together for you on that question. Thanks for the question. All right. We've reached the half hour, so we're gonna turn the time over. Oh, thanks, Claire. We're gonna turn the time over to today's guest mentor. Would you please help me welcome Dr. Janet Kim? Yay.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for the very hoarse voice. I am like, I just woke up this morning with no voice and I've been feeling sick. So I'm sorry that you have to listen to this for the next hour. Um, but I hope you get something out of it regardless. I'm really excited to talk to you about score study. It's something I'm super passionate about. So from what I understand, Tanya and Caitlin did send out some things for you guys to think about. Can you guys tell me what exactly you took away from that thinking prompt in the chat for just a moment here? If you want to share it out loud, feel free to come off mic and just share that as well.
And I just dropped the prompt into the chat, so everybody saw it on the email, but just to remind you, that's what you were asked to do ahead of time.
Yeah, and while you guys are doing that, I'm going to just quickly introduce myself so that there's no like awkward silence. Obviously, I am Janet Song Kim. I am currently serving as the director of wind bands at the University of Connecticut. I also do freelance gigging with honor bands and clinicking and all of that stuff. But I agree with Caitlin on the fact that I like health insurance because here in the United States, we need to have a job in order to have health insurance. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. It's not to say I don't love teaching, I do, but yeah, that's a big thing. I am not only a conductor, I'm also really big into nutrition. So I'm a nutrition coach and I do Olympic weightlifting for fun. So those are some other things on the side that I like to do. Um, so yeah, please, if you could go into the chat and like tell me like what is it like to like imagine or think about someone that you know so deeply? Like what feelings come to mind? Can you describe that person? Just take a few minutes here.
So to clarify, Janet, do you want them to write down and share about the person, or just share like what it felt like to experience
What it felt
what
like
it
to
feels like?
experience or like think about this prompt. Like what's like what emotions come to mind? Was it difficult for you to imagine this person in your mind? Um, things just about your experience in general. And I promise you this is relevant to score study. Alexandra, thank you so much for sharing that. Addie, is that how I say your name? Addie, that's Those are some really good feelings to have. Is there anyone else that would like to share their experience? Oh, Adeline, that's so lovely. Chloe, that can happen when you miss someone. So it's interesting, we're talking about a lot of emotions here. Inspiring, longing, sorrow, passion, safe, pushed, consistent, family, secure, love, laughter, joy, safety, warmth. Yeah, a person is so much more than what we experience on the surface. So I want to equate score study to meeting a person and getting to know a person. So that's why I asked for Caitlin and Tanya to share this prompt with you all. I see some more responses coming in. Pride, joy. Oh my goodness, so many responses. Fantastic. So as I continue, I'm just going to share my screen here. Hopefully it'll work. I haven't used Zoom in a really long time. Let's see. Can everyone see this little chart here that I've made? Cool. Okay. So I like to equate also, I'm unable to see the chat when I share my screen. So Caitlin, if you could just like kind of ping me if something comes up.
No problem.
So I like to equate score study to meeting a new person. Every time we meet a score, we need to get to know it really well. Like it's got to be our best friend, essentially, before we start kind of presenting it to people. So I like to think of it as like seeing a larger picture from the outside. What's it like to meet a new person? When you meet a person for the first time, what do you notice first? What are some of the red flags you see right away? And what are some of the green flags you see right away? You kind of start creating those checklists, right, in your head when you meet a person for the first time. What experiences do you share with them just in that first given moment, right? And then I like to equate this as seeing a larger picture from the outside. You're meeting them for the first time. It's the same thing with the score. Noticing how the music is dressed, quote unquote, is like how I like to describe that. What's the engraving look like? Are there any glaring tempo changes or anything that's different than what you expected it to be? What is the key signature? Who is the composer? What is the title? What is the tempo? And things like that. So I'm going to stop my share for a second here, and that document will be shared with you guys at the very end, I believe. Caitlin will put that into your resources, and we'll get back to that. Does everyone have access to Prelude in E minor that was shared with you guys? Give me some things that you guys notice right away about it. Give me like, let's talk about that first step, the macro one, which is seeing the larger picture from the outside. How is the music dressed? What does the engraving look like? Are there any glaring tempo changes? You had never seen the word stretto before. Does anyone know what the word stretto means? If you know, help Alexandra out.
It's like strict. It's like the direct Italian translation. So like be very specific with what you're doing and with the time and how people are playing, maybe.
Anyone else?
I think it kind of means like stretto. I feel like in my head it might not be right, but like stretch towards the end, and I feel like it kind of like pushes the tempo a little bit. I don't really know.
A little closer. So stretto is the word, an Italian word that directly translates to the word narrow. Okay. it means a little bit faster. So you're pushing it, like you're feeling that sort of like narrowing of time and you're trying to crunch it into a smaller space. So Cassandra is right, like a little bit of a faster tempo. Fantastic. I'm seeing some really, really good initial observations. So immediately notice the constant eighths in the left hand, very long and quiet lines in the right hand. There was a lot of slurs and eighth notes in the bass part. The overall structure being quite simplistic. And so, yeah, it is, stretto is used in a fugue sometimes. So Alexandra. Yeah, it is often used in fugal compositions. But in terms of an expressive term in music, if we see stretto, it means that we're kind of narrowing the scope of time in which we're playing. And so we're kind of playing a little bit faster. So that's great. That's the macro stuff. Anyone want to tell me what key we're in? It's pretty easy. Right? So if someone ever asks you what's prelude in E minor in, you should be able to answer that right away. Yeah, good job. Okay. Who's it by? Okay, very simple things. Like if anyone asks you like, who is Variations on America by? And what is the variation on? You should know the answer to that. If someone's talking to you about a score, a piece, a song, you should know one, what key it's in, what's the title of the piece, and the name of the composer. What is the opus number? Does anyone know? And what number is it? All of that stuff is the dressing of the music. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're looking at that and that you understand what what it's showing you. Okay. Um, I'm going to share my screen again so we can move on to the next step here. Oh, that's not the right one. Sorry. I'm so bad at this. Okay, cool. You guys can see that again. Micro 2. So this is where we start learning the details of the music, right? I hope you guys still have your score up. When you hang out after the first 3 times, what do you typically learn? You kind of start learning their life story, their icks, their green flags and red flags deeper, like their why, like why does that red flag exist and why does that green flag exist, right? This is learning the details. And the reason I have 2 parts to the micro is because I believe that there's a moment where you break past that barrier of where you're learning the details and then you look behind the details. So in score study, when you're learning the details, for me, it's about learning the small habits and details about the music. And there's 2 sides to this. There's the contextual side and the theoretical side. The contextual side, I think a lot of people like to get lost in and do a lot of it, and it's cool to do that, right? Like knowing about Chopin's life, knowing that this piece was written started in 1831, ended in 1839, was diagnosed with a severe illness and like died pretty much like in 1840, I believe. Oh no, 1850, but he was diagnosed in 1840. So it's like knowing that stuff about Chopin and then knowing that he finished this piece in 1839 as he felt really, really sick, right? And was coughing up blood. So like there's like a lot of stuff going on here. Like knowing all of that is the contextual stuff, the composer bio, the history, the commissioning process, the story behind the piece. Is this a transcription? Were there lyrics in its original form? Why was it written? And then there's the theoretical part of it. Form, harmonic analysis, melodic contour, compositional devices that are used. So let's hop into the chat real quick. And I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna call out your name and then give you a number or give you a contextual or a theoretical. Okay. And you guys are gonna do a quick internet search, or you're gonna take a moment to look at the piece if you're on the theoretical side, and you're gonna write something into the chat that is relevant to either one of those things that's not immediately apparent in the score. Okay. So Megan Austin, you are going to theoretical. Maddie F, you are going to contextual. Annie Elmore, you're theoretical. Caitlin Bogart, you are contextual. Forgive me if I'm wrong in pronouncing your name here. Lysiane, how do I pronounce? Did I say that correctly? Incorrectly? Lysiane F, You are going to theoretical, Zoe Foster, contextual, Oliviana Marie, let's go to theoretical, Chloe H, contextual, Alexandra, let's go to theoretical, Adeline, let's go to contextual, Alicia Haruch. Did I say that correctly? I'm so sorry if I didn't. Um, let's go to theoretical. Claire, let's go to contextual. Mika, let's go to theoretical. Addie, let's go to contextual. Melina, let's go to theoretical. Vlada, contextual. Vicky, theoretical. Lindsay, contextual. Paulina, theoretical. Cassandra, contextual. Corin, theoretical. And Mads, contextual. Axel, let's go to theoretical. Everyone drop one fact in the chat regarding one of those things that are not immediately apparent in the score. You can find these things either on the internet or just take a moment to look at the score if you're on the theoretical side. Are there any interesting compositional devices that are used? Do you see a specific interval that's consistently used? What's the first chord? What's the last chord? What's the form? I'll give you guys a couple minutes here.
Should we listen to it while we're researching?
Sure,
Oh,
we
yeah,
can listen
let's
to
do
it.
it.
Caitlin, do you mind sharing audio? Because I'm like
Yeah,
really
I'll
bad.
share audio. No.
Thank you.
Yay.
I'm just gonna hop off screen to get some water real quick. I'll be right back.
I like how the quiet coughs of the live performance mirrored Chopin's tuberculosis.
Wow, Caitlin, it's also mirroring my current state, which is why I had to go off camera.
And it's a curse. We've had an issue with like every single mentor
Yeah.
this year. Ingrid couldn't even present last session because her voice was completely gone. So her wife Susan presented on a different topic, like super last minute, and she was amazing. But it was just, I think we're cursed.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys are just choosing the dates where we're all getting sick. It's not cool. Girls who conduct, why are you doing this to us?
Fine. Are we cool to give it about another minute and then head to our break and then check back in after the break on everybody's research?
That's perfect because we are just about halfway through the process. So
Awesome. Well, at least that's going well.
I'm joking
All
about
right, friends. So we're right at about our break time. So once you do get your research or your analysis or just the stuff you already had on in your mind, into the chat, feel free to take the next 10 minutes for yourself. So mute or unmute, get up, stretch, use the restroom, grab a drink. If you want to stick around and chat with each other or any of the mentors who stick around, feel free to do so. We'll be back at the hour. Thank you.
Am I allowed to talk to you guys? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys thinking of me and bringing me on board for this. Okay,
Excited for you to be here. I love your analogy of score study. I've never really thought of it in that way. So I learned lots being here too.
oh, thanks, Tanya. It's nice to see you again. I miss you.
You too. I went to Home Goods the other day and couldn't find the cinnamon roll stuff.
No, really? Maybe it's just by me.
Yeah,
Tanya, give me your,
so
can you message me your address right now?
yeah, I'll send you my address. Hey, Addie.
Send you some cinema roll stuff.
What's cinnamon roll stuff? What?
Cinema roll, the Sanrio character.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, they have it at Home Goods? That's weird.
Yeah, I was just showing. Let's see if I can like show it through here. Hold on.
Oh, I need to show you guys the gotchas I got in Japan that play instruments. They're like this little bunnies. I'll be right back.
Let's see it.
You see
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
That was
That's cute.
that was at Home Goods, and then
That's
there's like
amazing. Home
ceramic.
Oh my
Goods
gosh.
doesn't usually have like brand name stuff.
They're having a lot of Sanrio collabs recently, so
That's where I'm headed. I want it.
oh
Do you need meds? I'll DoorDash you some meds, some cough
no.
drops.
I've got my Robitussin, my alcohol-free Robitussin right here.
Ooh, that's the
Yeah.
stuff.
And then I'm gonna like take Mucinex tomorrow morning. I'm also taking this like Korean herbal medicine that my mom makes me drink called hanyak, which is like miserable, but
What's
oh
in it? Is it just bitter and it smells weird? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Let me see what's
My mom's go-to is like Tiger Balm everything. Use Tiger Balm. Like,
that's
Mom, like I
so
have a cough. Like
okay.
sniff it.
So hanyak is a Korean traditional medicine, includes many ingredients of ginseng root, milk vetch root, Rehmannia gnosa, white peony, and licorice. Um, includes chrysanthemum and ephedra. Includes poria mushroom, pinnalia herbs, and dried seahorses.
Fried seahorses.
And also tree bark.
I feel like I missed something. What is happening?
Traditional Korean medicine that my mom
Oh,
makes.
yeah. Does it taste like
It
you're
tastes like
poisoning yourself?
it's funny because I gave some to my friend because she's like, "Oh, I want to try it. I'm not feeling good," so I gave her some. And she literally was like, "Yo, this tastes like burning tree bark."
Yeah.
Tree bark.
Wait,
I'm good.
Okay, can I show you the cute little guys that I got in Japan?
sure.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is a bunny that plays saxophone. It has a neck strap.
Oh,
A
Okay.
neck strap. That
And
is
then
a detail.
clarinet.
oh. Is the
And
clarinet
then
good, or is
and
it hand
then
just over it?
huh? No, the hands are in the right way. I think it might be mirrored, but it's correct. It's like accurate. Well,
Okay.
no, I take it back. This one's it's like holding it at this in the same exact place. So that one's not, but I think they're I gotta check because I have another one of that one. See, it's in the same. Anyways, flute bunny,
Oh,
and then trumpet bunny.
wow.
And then I also got Totoros that are playing ocarinas.
Oh my gosh.
A little Japanese band.
Yeah. They're so cute. I spent a lot of time trying to acquire those bunnies because they're in these like little coin machines that you like stick like 100 yen. Well, it's like 300 or 400 yen in, and you like crank it, and a little egg pops out, and you get bunnies.
So
And they
much
have
better
like,
than stupid sticky hands we get in the States.
oh yeah, no. Well, so it's like it's more expensive, but then it's like way better. But they have these shops where the whole shop is just those like capsule machines. So I'm a little obsessed.
Those are
Did you
very
get any doubles?
Oh yeah, I have like 4 clarinet bunnies. I
I wonder
basically have
if
enough
it's
for a full band.
yeah, I wonder if the ratio is like the ratio of a band, like in the thing. That's
Hmm.
hilarious. No violin, huh? No bass.
They didn't have a violin one. They had an electric guitar one too, but I was like, I don't want the electric guitar one. So I give it to Eric.
Yeah. That's funny.
hats. And they're all like dressed in something, and it's called
Oh.
Mopsand, and they're so cute.
Oh, I have Mofusan stickers too. They had Mofusan gotchas like these. In what were they in? They had bee costumes and they had squid and lion. I'm trying to think. They like rotate them out. So like every couple months they'll have a different one. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're really...
they had a temporal one.
Oh, I have that one from last year. The one with the shrimp tempura on its head. Yeah, I have that. I have well, it's sitting down. It's not standing up, but I have that one from last year.
It's using it as like a cushion for its
Oh,
for its butt.
that's really cute. Yeah, I have the one with it on its head.
So cute. I like the fruit ones too. Have you seen the fruit
I don't
series?
think I've seen the fruit ones. Oh, those are super cute. I had like a koala one. It looked like a koala and a panda, I think. And a shark. The shark one's like really popular. With like it's like wearing like a shark costume.
So I did try to do it to my cats also. Take it very well. Let me see if I can find a photo. Can you see?
Oh, oh dear. Would you try to put shrimp tempura on that cat's head? Oh, is that orange?
Yeah.
Oh no. Not happy. Is that ginkgo?
Ginkgo, yeah. Wait, hold on. I have one more.
Oh no.
She looks so
Okay.
mad.
She's taking it though.
Yeah, she's so mad though.
No. It's cute.
Oh, baby. Oh, my babies. I love you. Mwah. Oh, Maple's not having it.
All right, we're about 2 minutes out.
Say hi.
You want to say hi to Evan?
Well, there.
Oh, hi, Evan. How you
Hi,
going?
how have you been?
Good. What's
Cool.
what's new?
Some stuff. I playing with the Olympic Symphony Orchestra tomorrow, which is
What?
pretty cool.
Like
But I'm
you're subbing or is it like a
no, I'm
you?
subbing. I'm not. No, I'm subbing.
That's
But
cool though. Like only pros get to sub, basically. You made it.
yo, that's cool stuff.
How'd you
I'm
get that
leaving.
gig?
What the heck?
I don't know exactly. So I played with them last year too, and
Okay.
they just contacted me randomly, like cold texted me, like, "Hey,
Is it
you
because
want to?"
Miho's in Japan?
No, I think it's more Dr. James Doyle.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That's my guess. I don't know. I
Okay.
haven't like tracked down why it happened, but I got a cold text one day and they're like, "Hey, play with us."
It was because of me.
It was not because of Megan. So I'll stop and say hi though.
Nice to see you. How's your pupper?
Missy May.
We have a new one.
Say hi.
Oh, hi, you're so cute.
What the other one's good too. She's fat, but she's good.
She's very fat.
She's very big now.
I feel like, yeah, we have to have like a everybody bring their pets on.
Mini husky.
It's really cute.
Adeline says, what instrument?
Percussion. All sorts of percussion.
Exciting.
Anyway, it was good seeing you.
Nice to see you. I'll see you later, Evan.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, friends. It is the hour. All right, 6 p.m. for me and 9 p.m. on the East Coast. So let's get our videos back unmuted, and if you can, and Dr. Kim, take away the second half of our score study session.
I'm so glad that a lot of you were able to take a moment and add some contextual and theoretical facts in here. I want to share one of my favorite contextual things that I found about Chopin's Prelude in E minor. I literally just have this saved because I love this piece. I know it's played so much, but oh, Axel, bless your heart. Thank you so much for being here. But I just want to share this with you all because I find it so interesting. Chopin's teaching lineage led to Cortot in the 20th century, who described the prelude in this particular way. The piece must be played in the mood of a mourner, with a face dimly veiled and the eyes heavy with tears. The beginning should be so quiet as to be hardly perceptible. It should be a mere murmur. In the left hand, the finger that establishes the change of harmony should alone emerge a little from the pianissimo. In the right hand, there should be nothing but a lament, the lament of a mourner who can no longer lift up his voice. At the 12th bar, from the feeling of sadness to sudden terror, here it is no longer a question of correctness, of strict time, but of superhuman sorrow. Emphasize the chords of the left hand by thrusting the fingers well into the keyboard and let the clamor of the right hand reach a kind of frenzy. Then the lament dies away. There is a pause, a long one, and then in the last chords, a note of doom. That's a really descriptive way of explaining a piece to someone. It's like you can hear the emotions right away, kind of like how we can imagine the person we love and the feelings that we take away from it, right? So in order to get to that point, we need to look behind the details. And this is what I called micro 2. A lot of people, when they teach score study, will say it's macro, micro, macro, which I agree with to a degree, right? I do think that there are 2 levels to the micro, though, that we need to be really cognizant of. The second part of the micro is looking behind the details, the getting to know them phase even deeper. You get frustrated with them. This is when you get into the first fight with that person, you know? You learn more about them. You learn what kind of attachment style they have. You learn their idiosyncrasies. You find error in their ways. You find beauty, also the deepest beauty about that person. You find humanity. You find their trauma, and you also find out what their beige flags are, the simplistic things about them that just are, right? Because you know them so well. So when you look behind the details, you find all of that. Because when we think of details in someone, when we meet someone, we think, what are their red flags and green flags? But we don't know what their beige flags are yet because we don't know them as well. Looking behind the details in score study, do you know which order these details occur? Are there any errors? Can you find what you think is the most beautiful moment in the piece, the moments that lead up to the sections, to those sections, the moments that bring you the most peace after an emotional buildup? Or maybe it doesn't ever happen, but you should be able to describe the piece just the way that Cortot did, right? This is obviously not something that you guys can do right away. It takes time. So when you score study, it can't be something where you just pick it up and you get to know it in one day. There are often times where I will literally conduct a piece. I'll go through, 6 months of score study on a piece, and then I'll conduct it, and then I'll come to revisit it years later to conduct it again. And I'll find new things because that's just kind of what happens when you spend time away from a person and you go back and you notice different details about them. So, I'm curious to know, can you guys take a moment, like close your eyes and just imagine a piece that you know so well, whether that's a pop song or like just something that you know so well, and take a moment and just try to describe it to yourself in your head. If you're not an inner monologue person, try to immediately hear it in great vivid detail. Um, you should be able to hear a piece from beginning to end in your head. And that's where you know that you're finished with micro 2. You know, you know the piece. So let's take a moment here of silence and try that. Give it about 3 more minutes or two more minutes. All right, the responses are coming in. I think that's really cool that a lot of you have such a wide variety of pieces or songs that you are audiating in your head. Um, there are probably moments in your process of audiating where you notice that it wasn't going the way it was, or maybe a part was repeating. Can I see a show of hands for some of you that might have had those like sort of like mental skids while imagining the piece, where you felt like you kind of made a mistake in remembering? Yeah. The best way for us to score, the thing is that's human, it's going to happen. But when we score study, I'm not saying you necessarily need to memorize the score, everything that's happening in front of you, because a lot of people conduct without scores. But you'll see some of the greatest conductors in the world. They've got the music so deeply embedded within them. They just know they carry that score with them in their heart, just like they carry their lover or like their best friend and memories of people they love. They carry it with them so deeply and that relationship so deeply that, going back to one of the questions I heard earlier, they are able to spontaneously move to the emotions that relate directly to the movement in the music that they feel inside of them. So that's something to really consider in terms of practicing spontaneity. How well are you imagining the piece without those mental skids happening with your hands still, right? And then when you feel the movement, and obviously you have to practice movement at some point, when you get to that point, where you imagine the piece so well, it's internalized within you, your body will move the way it's supposed to for the music. Okay, let's go on to the last step here. The last step is seeing the larger picture from the inside. The first step was seeing the larger picture from the outside. Then we went into micro, right? Micro one, micro two. I'll edit that, by the way. I kind of messed that up a little bit. And then macro two, seeing the larger picture from the inside. When you're best friends with a person, what do you know about them that the world does not know immediately from seeing them? Do you know them well enough to be able to describe them without looking at them directly, having them there in person? The feeling that they evoke when they walk into a room. What are their life goals and dreams? What are their deepest, darkest secrets? What makes them tick? What is their why? And how would you describe them to someone else? Just like Cortot did for Prelude in E minor. He described that piece like it was a person. Seeing the larger picture from the outside and score study. Do you know this music well enough to be able to sing it back and describe it without looking at it directly, having the information in front of you? At least enough to be able to describe the feelings that the score evokes to the students in front of you or the musicians in front of you that you'll be working with. Do you know what the goal of the piece is? Why does it exist? What are its little secrets? What makes this piece go? And what makes this work of art worth knowing? You have to be able to answer that question because you're seeing that person or that score from the inside now. Why is it worth knowing? And how would you clearly describe this piece to someone who has never met it? And the reason I use the word met or know is because it's kind of like meeting a person. So, when it comes to score study in the process, I'm curious to know what you all have known in the past to what you learned today. Like, what's different in that process? Can you guys share maybe some things that are different in the chat for a moment here? I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys because I know that Caitlin just told me that she's never heard of this comparing it to meeting a person kind of situation. I'm curious to know what you all have taken away from this. And if you're willing to talk to me with your voice, I love that too. So, Adeline, go for it.
Something that I was thinking about in what you said was internalizing the music so well that when you're staying still, like your body almost wants to move with what's going on in your head, or like your hands want to move because you've internalized it so well. And that's like a rawness that you can channel into the expression of your conducting. And that's something that I kind of took away.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexandra.
So I'd say what I took away is this feels, at least your approach to score study, it feels much more stripped back and raw and like visceral almost. Like it's not just the mechanics of, okay, this is a score, okay, this is a body of music. Okay, let's look at it academically. How does it work? It's a much more like you're meeting a person, literally. It's very intimate. You're having your own conversation with the score, kind of. So, like, I know it's creative and people will be like, oh, you kind of need to interact with it, informally. But I feel like the way you phrase it at least really prioritizes, actually meeting your score. And it's just a really lovely metaphor for all of it because that's what you're actually doing.
Oh, thank you so much. That was really kind of you to say. Annie, you can go for it. Ooh, Annie, I think your audio isn't working. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I had also never heard of the like meeting, like you're looking at a score like you're meeting a new person. Before, I had always kind of like I think I'd always had people try to tell me that, but they never used like those words. And I noticed that for myself and for a lot of my peers, it was kind of like we were having a hard time grasping like, what are you trying to tell me about score study? But I think that analogy like really like put it into place because I had always kind of just when I get a new score, I just kind of like open it, I look at like the whole picture of it, and I just start like numbering measures rather than like, you know, really sitting with it for a second. So I really like the analogy.
Yes, and those things are important too. I don't want to like take away from like the technical aspects of it, right? There is a reason that theoretical is a part of that process. And getting to know and how many measuring numbers there are is a pretty important part of that as well. But thank you so much for the kind words, everyone, so far. Megan.
I think what I found kind of relating like the piece to a person is something I do a lot because like I'm just an emotional human being. Is I whenever I'm with a piece, I'm like, okay, how does this make me feel? What's the mood of this piece? Like what is this piece trying to say? Because all pieces in my opinion are substitutes for words. Like they're all trying to convey something. Um, so it makes a lot of sense to me to try and look at a piece as it is a person because you are just getting an insight to the composer. It's an extension of who somebody is, essentially. Um, and I just really like that. I kind of like was also thinking a little bit about things that my therapist would say, like, how is this making you feel? Like, what type of emotion is this trying to convey? And I just think it's really cool concept, and I really like it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think that asking yourself how it makes you feel and things like that is a really important part of getting to know people too, right? And I always try to relate musical lessons to life lessons because everyone's like, when am I ever going to use calculus in real life? Or like, when am I ever going to use music in real life? And I think understanding music theory intervals, like the space between two objects, is like super important to know. And I think understanding like how to deeply get to know a piece is and knowing how that piece makes you feel is a really good part of emotional education in learning how music works, but also appreciating it just for what it is as art.
Can I share a little breakthrough? I was gonna say that I think what's interesting about this approach of like relating score study to meeting a person is that we all have our own individual relationships with people. Like, let's say, a friend of yours has 10 friends. Each of those 10 friends has a different view and thought and relationship with that person. And it could and should be the same with musical scores. And I think oftentimes when we focus on the academic and the theoretical score study, we're being trained that like score study and preparation for conducting is this hard science math problem that you have to solve and you should be getting the same answers as everyone else versus in this format it's like you're being invited to get to know a piece of music in the same way you get to know a person, and sometimes you like or dislike people to different extents, but then you still have to work with them. And like Janet and I are allowed to have different thoughts about Paul Hindemith, and we can all live in the world, and I just really appreciate that.
We can definitely have different thoughts about Paul Hindemith, right? But there's just like that's exactly right. Some people will love a piece and your best friend might hate that piece, and that's okay. Like everyone just interacts differently with every piece. But the thing is, you know, there might be pieces that you choose at first that you really like, and then as you score study, you've already programmed it. It's already you're doing it, and then as you keep studying it, you're like, "Oh man, I hate this." But you still have to work with it. Um, and you still have to finish through with it. And I've had an experience like that. You have to treat it like it's a human. You got to work with it regardless. And getting to know it and knowing its idiosyncrasies is going to be the thing that helps you a lot. Cassandra.
Hi. I wanted to say that I've also never heard or never thought about it that way of as like score study comparing to like meeting somebody new or like thinking about someone that you really like or that you love. And I think I love performing. I'm a violinist and I also sing in choir, and concerts and performances that we do are like my favorite thing ever. It just gives me such like joy, and I think it's like when I think about that one person or whatever, and it brings me joy, or they bring me joy, or love or happiness. I think it's kind of nice to be able to have that freedom to do that with like pieces that you're playing or conducting, and not feel like weird about it, like, oh, I'm like, oh, I love this piece so much, and not feel like you're, I don't know, but I think it's really interesting, and I'm really, uh, I feel like now that I have the freedom to just express how I feel about a piece that I love a lot without fear of like judgment or something.
That is the most important thing for a conductor. I feel like being vulnerable about how you feel about the piece and being open about that is the thing that helps your students to also, or your musicians, sorry, I speak as a professor, but your musicians and students to feel that same sort of visceral emotion that you have towards a piece. You're bringing this new person or this new score into people's lives, you know, or they're like, oh yeah, I've met Beethoven's Fifth before, right? um but you are like, no, but this is how I know Beethoven's Fifth, and this is what I want you to know about Beethoven's Fifth that I know, and I'm so excited about it. And you can't hide that part, because if you do, I mean, there can't be any shame in that. That is such a huge part and such an important, like, the result of score study is that it's that visceral vulnerability, that joy, that relationship that you're willing to share with the world. That's the result of score study. It's an artistic process. Music is scientific. There are things about it. You have to know the theoretical things that go behind it. You should know form. You should know analysis. You should know the harmonies, but it doesn't need to be a right answer. It's how do you know that piece and what are you going to share with your ensemble about it? Hey,
Awesome. Amazing. So we have just a few minutes left, but what we would love to do is open it back up for either score study specific or more general questions for Dr. Janet Kim, since this is her one and only guest session with us tonight. So after now, you'll only kind of see her in the mix outside of Girls Who Conduct. She will also make her email available, I hope, if you have any follow-up. But any questions for Dr. Kim?
there, go for it.
So, I know that singing and conducting is a great way to help in the process to really internalize how you want the music to sound or based on what you study. Um, and I was wondering, is it helpful to do that even in the beginning stages of getting to know um, the piece, even when you haven't grasped fully maybe the entirety of, or like you nearing the final performance or connecting of it?
Sorry, so the question was if you should sing it or if you should move to it.
Oh, so like singing it the way you hear it while conducting it at the same time is something that I've done regularly, and I'm just curious to know if that would be helpful even in the beginning stages of getting to know a score.
Personally, I mean, this is just what I do and what I ask my students to do is to not sing at all. I ask them to just meet the music as it is and like see it as it is, try to hear it as strictly as it is. Because it's hard, I feel like it's hard to make interpretations about how something should go before you really know what it's about. Before you really know the character or the context or um the harmonies or anything like that. I feel like it's hard to understand how it goes, but that's just me. if you find that to be helpful for you in your process, then do it. For me, I have found that once I sing something a certain way, because I used to do that, um, I get stuck in that way and it's hard for me to change the way that I hear it. And I want, when I have it in my head, like as is, I should be able to sing any phrase 5 different ways and then be able to choose which one is best. Because if I sing it one way and I'm stuck that way, I don't know if I've really chosen the best option. So that's just me personally. But if you are more flexibly minded than I am, Caitlin knows this. I'm very like, right, in my thinking, like you can do that. I hope that answers your question, Claire. Vicky.
Yeah, I was wondering right now I'm in between teachers and I'm wondering what is the best thing I could do now since I am in between teachers?
Best thing you can do for what in particular? Just like
Like my own getting better in violin, um, and learning more because I'm still a junior in high school, so it auditions is in less than a year. So I want to figure out what I can do about that.
I mean, I think all of the things that you do to get better are things you already know and that your teachers have probably told you. Long tones, intonation, tuning, working on the basic fundamentals are some of the biggest things that you can do as a musician that will get you reaching your goals faster. Oftentimes, in every setting, in every musical setting, you think about issues with someone's playing. Right, and maybe there's that level of musicality and, like, phrasing that someone needs to know, which is that, like, upper echelon of issues, but most of the time, many of those issues that you hear in someone's playing or issues in an ensemble's playing are gonna come down to the fundamental things. Is your internal pulse there? Is it strong? Is your sense of intonation and listening strong? Do you know what's happening? Are you recording yourself and giving yourself feedback? Um, do you have strong practice fundamentals and techniques? I believe that the solution to many complex issues are fundamental building blocks. So I hope that helps you in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, thank you.
I have a question, and it's anonymous. How do you get over burnout and or loss of hope? Giving up in everything, not just music related.
Tanya, you're asking a very interesting person that question. Because when Tanya and I were working together at Carnegie Hall, I was experiencing burnout to the point where I was like, what's the point of music? People are starving. People don't have homes. Why am I making music? And to put it quite honestly, I think burnout just necessitates rest. I think that's a sign for your body to quietly resign for as long as you need to in order to heal. And obviously, there are going to be people who are depending on you, but there are future people depending on you too that need you to take care of you in that moment. And if you don't ever take care of yourself, then the future people won't have you either. So take a moment, quietly resign. And what I mean, quiet resignation is the concept that where you just show up enough to do what you need to get done and take as much time as you need for yourself. And I had to do that as a conductor. And did that impact my students? Yes. But is it impacting my students now positively? Yes. Because I was able to gather enough energy back for myself after my burnout to come back and feel rejuvenated enough to serve them musically in the way that I wanted to, at the level that I want to. Um, in terms of, so that's a reactive way for to respond to burnout. A proactive way, a preventative method, is to learn to work your job like a 9 to 5. If you give your job a specific amount of hours, you need to give yourself back a certain amount of hours to yourself. Answer emails until a certain time. You're out of office at a certain time. You do not answer emails from this time to this time. You need to set those boundaries for yourself because as musicians, it could turn it could turn into this like 24/7 like surrounding, like you're answering everything and everything is just like it's all the time and it's hard to avoid that. So I would say like setting strict boundaries for yourself, making sure that you're socializing with the people that you want to socialize with and like recharge you and don't drain you, sleeping, learning to say no. So I hope that answers the anonymous question. Do we have time for more?
So we're about to hit the end of our session, but we typically can go a little bit longer. It looks like we have a couple more questions. So Janet, if you're okay sticking around to answer these couple questions, what we can do is just say our farewells now. And anyone who wants to stick around and ask or hear the answers to those questions, they will still be recorded as well if you want to follow up. So could we real quick give Dr. Janet Kim a round of applause for their amazing session on score study today. I think it's really awesome. Dropping into the chat here a reminder about our next session. If it's not on your calendar yet, we'll see you on February 13th. Same time. Well, I guess we start at 8 p.m. Eastern, but Michelle DeRusso will be with us starting at 8:30, talking about career prep. So different ways you can plan on preparing for your career in music, conducting, what have you. So we will send you another reminder as well as the recording for this and any homework that needs to be done ahead of time. But thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to stick around to ask Janet a couple more questions and hear the answers, feel free. And we'll transition to that time now. Thank you.
Megan, I just want to address something that you said in the chat real quick. If you are going to go, don't worry about it. This will be recorded. I just want you guys to be careful with getting hobbies outside of music. Yes, get hobbies, do things outside of music, please, for the love of God. It will inform your music making. But doing hobbies outside of music can also attribute to burnout. Especially if you're someone that's as extreme as I am. I don't just like do a hobby. I like make it a job. Like I love food and then I became a nutrition coach. Like who does that? Me, that too. So like that can be something that like attributes to burnout. So just be careful with how you are if you're someone that does take things to the extreme. Zoe.
I just wanted to ask a couple, like, for some tips about how to study a score that you do not like. Like, right now, I am playing keyboard one for spam a lot, and it's not really my cup of tea, unfortunately. So I'm having a hard time, like, wanting to put in the extra time to, like, understand it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not about what you want when it's got a paycheck associated with it. And oftentimes we have to spend time with people we don't like in order to learn how to work with them. The more that we spend time with it, the more likely we will be to want to spend more time with it. Maybe later on we'll be like, okay, you know what? I spent enough time with that. I can walk away from it. But I think at the end of the day, it's really just about like really trying hard to link on to the things that you do like. Like, is there any measure that you're like really excited about? Like, get excited for that measure, like whatever it is. Or maybe there's a sense of humor in spam a lot that maybe you'll start enjoying. Um, you have to kind of associate the musical motifs to like what's happening in the music to allow yourself, right? Like, just kind of like try to find ways to get that to associate with something that positive as best as you can. So that's kind of I guess, how I would go about it.
Can
Caitlin?
I give one more piece of advice? I consider, conducting and performing music as a form of like artistic expression and the fact that like we're kind of acting, right? Like a lot of times we're putting out music that we're not necessarily feeling those emotions at the time. So if I'm conducting a piece of music that I don't like, I will pretend to be a person who likes that piece of music. So now I'm acting and I'm acting like who's the kind of person who would like this? Now I'm going to be that person. So it's just another form of conducting and acting and expression.
Caitlin's so much better than me at that. Like my resting, I have a really bad RBF. It's like really bad. I cannot control it. So when it comes to music, I don't like it's kind of hard. Um, Adeline,
So in terms of score study, one, I was wondering if you've ever memorized a score and performed it and what that experience was like if you have done that. And when in the process and how often in the score study process do you consult recordings?
So I memorized Roma by Valerie Coleman in 2019 during my doctoral studies. It was a 12-minute plus piece. It was the first full piece I had memorized movements of pieces before, but never a full piece. Um, I have to say that memorizing a piece changed my perspective on memorization. I used to be like, "Oh, memorization is silly. It's not necessary." But once I did it, it was so incredibly freeing. It really opened up my eyes to the possibility of spontaneity and movement and conducting and conducting as a form of communication, not just like an art of movement, but rather um the reason we necessitate gestural vocabulary is because we need to communicate in the moment about what the ensemble needs, as Caitlin said earlier, right? Like it's about like that, and you have such a clear picture in your head of like what the score is. So like to me, like say that the score that I'm conducting that I've memorized is the color green, right? But the ensemble, like the resulting sound that they're making is blue. I can't conduct green at them. I can't just like conduct like what it's supposed to be because the resulting sound is going to be blue green because they're playing blue. I'm conducting green, and they're like, oh, we're going to do what half of them are going to be like, we're going to do what Dr. Kim is doing. Right. So what I have to do in the moment is if I hear that they're playing blue, but the music needs to be green, I have to be willing to move to yellow in a second, metaphorically, so that the resulting color can be green. And I feel like when your head is out of the score and you know exactly where it's supposed to go and you're like, oh, it's not green, this is where it's supposed to be, you know to move it um, into that mode immediately and more instantaneously and more spontaneously. So that's kind of what changed it for me. Was that, I think that answered your question, Adeline. Was there anything else?
Yeah, that answered that part. And then I was also wondering when in the score study process you consult recordings or how often you do that.
Yeah, so I consult recordings like way like if I'm like, okay, I have this conception. I try to create a full conception of the piece. Um, and then I try to listen to it if in a perfect world. But as a college professor that's consistently going out and like doing honor bands or working for a new ensemble or guest conducting somewhere at a different high school like that week, like I have a lot of pieces to learn. So to be very honest with you, sometimes I have to just listen to like 5 different recordings like very early on in the piece, and someone has to introduce me to the person, like their view of the person. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good view of the person. Although I want to eventually develop my own sense of who that score is. Um, that is unfortunately sometimes the reality. Like it just depends on how much time I really have between when I receive the piece or notice of me conducting the piece to when I actually conduct it, and how much time I have in between to actually absorb what's happening in the music. So yeah.
Thank you. That was great.
Is there anything else?
I know Vicky wanted to chat about something. I think we'll turn off the record for that point. But was there any other like more general questions before we get to that from anybody? You're just sticking around to hear all the great advice. Okay, well, I'm going to click end of recording. Thanks so much for being here. And I think we do have one more question.